I had been counting down the days to Thanksgiving. For me, it wasn't just another holiday. It was supposed to be a reunion, a moment of warmth, a moment where love would fill the air and the smell of food would carry memories of family. The drive home that evening felt endless, but my heart was light, beating with excitement. I imagined opening the door to find my husband waiting, arms wide open, his smile reflecting the home we had built together. But as soon as I stepped into the house, I knew something was wrong. The air was cold. Not just the temperature, but the feeling. The lights were dim, the silence almost screamed, and there was no trace of him. No shoes at the door, no jacket on the hanger, no sound of his voice calling my name. I whispered to myself that maybe he had gone out for groceries, or maybe he was upstairs. But in my chest, I felt a weight pressing harder and harder. Something wasn't right. I dropped my bags and rushed from room to room, calling out his name, my voice cracking with each unanswered echo. The living room was empty, the kitchen untouched, the dining table bare when it should have been dressed for the holiday. Our bedroom door was open, and inside, the bed was perfectly made, like no one had slept there in days. That was the moment my stomach twisted. He was gone. Fear rushed through me, colliding with confusion. Where could he be? Why didn't he leave a note? Why didn't he call? My mind began to spiral with possibilities, an accident, an emergency, something unthinkable. But then I froze, because I wasn't alone. A sound came from the hallway, slow, deliberate footsteps. My heart hammered against my ribs as I turned, and there he was, not my husband, but his stepfather. He stood there with an expression I couldn't read, half hidden in the shadow. I felt an invisible wall rise between us, a line that shouldn't have been crossed. Where is he? I asked, my voice trembling, a mixture of demand and desperation. But he didn't answer right away. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, almost like he was studying me, like he knew something I didn't. That silence was worse than any words. I could feel my throat tighten, my pulse racing faster with every second he stayed quiet. Finally, he spoke, his tone low, calm, almost unsettling. He's not here. And I don't know when or if he's coming back. Those words hit me like glass shattering inside my chest. My legs felt weak. I grabbed the edge of the wall to steady myself, fighting the urge to collapse. How could he say that so easily, as if it meant nothing? How could my husband disappear, leaving me stranded, and his stepfather be the one standing there instead? I wanted to scream. I wanted to demand answers. But something about his presence held me back. The way his eyes lingered, the way his voice carried a weight I couldn't place, it was like there was a secret locked behind every word he chose not to say. I stepped closer, my voice sharp now, desperate. Tell me what happened. Tell me where he went. He looked away for a moment, then back at me, almost as if he was debating whether I was strong enough to hear the truth. Sometimes, he said quietly, people walk away when they can't handle the life they built. Sometimes they leave without warning. I shook my head, refusing to believe it. My husband wouldn't do that to me. Not on Thanksgiving. Not without a word. But the more I searched the room for answers, the more I realized there was nothing of his left. No clothes in the closet. No toothbrush by the sink. No trace of him at all. Tears blurred my vision as I staggered back. It was like he had been erased from this house, erased from my life.
But why? How?
I felt his stepfather's eyes still on me, watching me break, and it sent a chill down my spine. You knew, I whispered, the words trembling out of me. You knew he was gone before I walked in. He didn't deny it. That silence again, heavy, unbearable. And in that silence, a new kind of fear crept in, not just of losing my husband, but of being trapped in this house with the only man who seemed to know the truth, yet refused to share it. I tried to breathe, but every breath was shallow. The walls felt closer, the air colder, and every glance at him made my chest tighten. He wasn't just withholding information. He was holding something over me, something I didn't yet understand. The clock ticked louder in the background, each second dragging like an eternity. I wiped my tears, forcing myself to stand tall, even though I felt like collapsing. "If you don't tell me where he is," I said, voice breaking, "then I'll find out myself." But before I could move, he stepped forward, his shadows stretching across the floor, swallowing the light between us. His voice lowered, almost like a warning. "Be careful what you're looking for. You might not like what you find." My heart skipped. The weight of his words crushed me. I wanted answers, but suddenly, I wasn't sure I was ready to hear them. Still, I couldn't stop myself. I couldn't sit in silence while my husband was missing. With trembling hands, I picked up my phone, scrolling through messages, searching for any clue, any call, any text. But everything was normal until I reached the last message he had sent me. It was simple. Just 3 words. "Don't come home." My chest froze. The phone nearly slipped from my hand. That was the moment I realized. He hadn't just left. He wanted me far away from here. And yet here I was, standing in the very place he warned me not to be, face to face with the one man who might know why. The room spun. My thoughts collided. And then I heard it, a knock at the door. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. His stepfather didn't move. He just stared at me, the faintest hint of a smirk on his face, like he already knew what was coming next. I couldn't tell if I was about to find answers, or if I had just walked into a nightmare I couldn't escape. The knock at the door echoed like thunder in the silence of the house. I froze, my heart slamming against my ribs, each beat screaming at me to decide whether to open it or run. My husband's stepfather didn't flinch. He just stood there, arms crossed, watching me like a man who already knew the ending of a story I hadn't even begun to understand. The knock came again, harder this time. I swallowed, my throat dry, and forced myself to move. My hands trembled as I reached for the handle. When I opened the door, the cold night air swept in, biting against my skin. Standing there was a neighbor, someone I barely knew, holding an envelope. "Someone left this on your porch," she said quietly, her eyes darting between me and the shadow of the man behind me. Something in her gaze told me she didn't want to linger. She handed me the envelope and walked away quickly, as if she wanted nothing to do with whatever storm was brewing inside this house. I shut the door, my fingers tight around the envelope. It was plain, unmarked, no name, no return address. But inside, I already knew there would be something I wasn't prepared for. With shaking hands, I tore it open. A single sheet of paper slid out, and on it, in rushed, uneven handwriting, were the words, "Don't trust him." My blood turned to ice. I looked up at his stepfather, who hadn't moved, who hadn't blinked, who just stared at me as if waiting for me to connect the dots. "Is this from him?" I demanded, my voice breaking between anger and fear. "Is he trying to warn me about you?" His lips curved, not into a smile, but into something colder, something that unsettled me more than silence ever could. "Maybe he's warning you about something else," he said softly. I clenched the note in my fist, my heart thundering. I wanted to believe this was from my husband, a desperate cry for me to see the truth. But what was the truth? Was he gone because of his stepfather? Or was there a bigger secret hidden in the shadows of his house? I turned, determined to search every corner, every drawer, every place my husband might have left a clue. But before I could take a step, his stepfather's voice stopped me cold. "If you're going to look," he said, his tone calm, almost casual, "then start in the basement." The basement? I froze, every muscle locking tight. We rarely went down there. It was always cold, always damp, always carrying an energy that made me uncomfortable. Why would he suggest the basement now? I looked at him, suspicious, wary, but curiosity overpowered fear. I grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen and forced my feet toward the door that led downstairs. The old wooden steps creaked under my weight as I descended, the air growing heavier with each step. The beam of the flashlight cut through the darkness, landing on stacks of boxes, old furniture, and shadows that seemed to stretch too far. I moved slowly, my breath shallow, until something caught my eye, a suitcase, half hidden under a sheet. I rushed to it, pulled the sheet away, and there it was, his clothes, his shoes, his belongings. Everything I thought had vanished from the house was packed neatly into that one suitcase. My knees buckled, and I fell back, clutching the light. He hadn't been erased. He had left. On purpose.
But why?
I unzipped the suitcase, searching, desperate for a note, a clue, anything. And there it was, tucked into the pocket of his jacket, a folded piece of paper. I pulled it out, my hands trembling, and opened it. It wasn't a goodbye letter. It was a list. Names.
Dates.
Locations. And at the bottom, my name. My blood ran cold. Before I could process what it meant, I heard movement behind me. I turned, and his stepfather was standing at the bottom of the stairs, watching me. "You weren't supposed to see that," he said quietly. My chest tightened, panic flooding my veins. "What is this? Why is my name on this list?" He stepped closer, his shadow stretching across the floor. "Because he was trying to protect you. And now you've put yourself in the very danger he tried to keep you away from." I shook my head, the paper trembling in my hand. "Protect me from what?" I shouted. "From who?" His eyes narrowed. "From the truth." Those words cut through me, sharp and merciless. I wanted to run, to scream, to escape, but my body refused to move. Every part of me was anchored by fear and confusion. The truth? What truth? He took another step, lowering his voice, his tone like a secret wrapped in poison. "He didn't leave you. He left because of what he found. And if you dig any deeper, you'll find it too." My breaths came fast and shallow. I wanted answers, but each word he spoke pulled me closer to a cliff I wasn't sure I could survive falling from. I clutched the paper tighter, forcing myself to stand tall, even though my knees threatened to give out. "If he wanted to protect me," I whispered, "then why involve you? Why leave me here with you?" His jaw tightened, his eyes darkening. "Because sometimes the only way to keep someone safe is to make them believe they're not." I felt the ground slip beneath me, my mind spinning with questions I couldn't untangle. Was my husband gone to save me, or had he abandoned me in the hands of someone I couldn't trust? The silence between us grew heavier, crushing, unbearable. Then, suddenly, footsteps echoed upstairs, fast, urgent, unfamiliar. Both of us froze, our eyes locking in a moment of unspoken fear. Someone else was in the house. I gripped the flashlight, my pulse racing, every nerve screaming that I wasn't ready for what was about to happen. His stepfather glanced toward the stairs, then back at me, his expression unreadable, but his words sent a chill deeper than the night air outside. "It's too late," he said quietly. "They've already found you.